I could ask everyone to please start with the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. First on the agenda, we have the library with solar discussion.
Hello, I'm Ellen Faulkner. I'm chairman of the library trustees. This is Rebecca Matek, who's the director, and we also have Glenn Kopelman and Rick Russman and Erling Landry in the audience who will join us shortly. They were part of the subcommittee to present to the trustees the recommendation for the solar. In the past, as some of you may remember, the library had a warrant article that was approved by the residents to put in a solar array on the property and to enter into a contract. During that time, we did have feedback about not cutting down as many trees. There was concerns about use of the majority of the rest of the property and limiting some future expansion, but we were still pursuing it to look into possibilities. But then we were aware that the Board of Selectmen were also looking into a future possibility of using the landfill. If the town never is able to pursue that, obviously the library would rather tie in and be part of the town's energy program rather than have our own separate one. So what came up as a possibility, and this came up during the design, Mark and I had a meeting with the solar company to talk about other possibilities other than the large solar array and what might be more beneficial for the library. The possibility of a single pole came up. In the meantime, then the selectmen started looking at their possible proposals, so we started looking more into the single pole because part of the library's plan is not only to cut down on some of the costs, but to also be educational for solar power and other sources of energy. So we started looking into a single panel with still the idea that we would not want to impact the residents directly through any tax impact. That had been sort of a criteria for the library trustees during this whole project. But we have funds in the impact fees that would not only cover a cost of a single pole, but would then also leave significant funds still in our impact fee portion for any future uses. We didn't want to use the whole thing. We could have gone bigger, more mechanical, but then we thought that that might actually cause future issues, and it would have spent almost all of the money in our impact fees, which we didn't want to do. So we put that sort of out to our subcommittee, who can now join us, but we were going to put in a warrant article. We wanted to talk to you about it for the amount of money for the single pole mounted solar array, with the Board of Selectmen withdrawing from the impact fees to cover it, so there would be no direct tax impact to the residents. So that would basically be the warrant article. So we want to pass that by you, give you a heads up, since you guys are part of owning the property as well. It's a combined effort. But to ask the solar group if they can come up to answer any specific questions you may have about the single pole array.
So you keep saying single poles. That means single panel, or I guess I don't know what the definition of a single pole is.
You got the same one?
The array, the panels sit on a frame, and there's one single pole.
Okay.
This is not what ours would look like. Ours is about half the size. We're doing 16 panels. This is 32. And we're also doing it that the frame is all black.
Yeah.
So there's no extra frame, so it's a little less noticeable. So, but this gives you the idea about the pole.
And then,
This is the way the panels look. They're all black.
okay. And how much does that generate?
That's where I'm gonna have them come up, because they have all that information. I have some of it, but they've been working on it for a long time. So I'm more than happy to push to the side, if you gentlemen.
Whoever wants to come up.
I have a question before we peel off there. I know at one point at some point the impact fees expire, correct?
They can, yes.
And wasn't there a portion of this that was some of the impetus to do the solar project because
Well,
some
we
of those
were-
were expiring, or close
Well,
to, or?
I don't think they're at that point yet, but they would be, anything that was put in 8 years ago is gonna be hitting their time where they'd be expiring. So it's good to have you can't keep them forever, so it is better to use some of those on a project, still keep some growing, so that you don't have to give back the money and not have used it for anything that would be for the benefit. This is not only gonna be educational, but it will take care of some of the electricity for the library, so it will be beneficial to the taxpayer, because that can then cut those costs down a bit. I think they said it's about, I don't wanna guess. We had a meeting about it, and I don't wanna say the wrong number when they're here, and they can give you more information. But obviously, we're going with the warrant article, because the initial warrant article the town approved was for us to enter into a contract for the solar array with the 7-year buyout plan. This we felt was so significantly different that even though the Board of Selectmen can expend impact fees without any further vote of the town, we didn't think that was the right thing to do. We thought a warrant article was better, so that everybody would get a clear indication of whether this was something the town thought should be done, and then to authorize the use of the impact fees. So that's our intent.
Anyone have any questions before we bring the experts up?
That's why you have subcommittees. Make them do all the work.
Whoever wants to step up, all 3 is, 1, 2, whatever.
There's plenty of chairs. Come on. You did a lot of work. You should be recognized for your work.
So for
Good
the
evening.
record, hi, Glenn Koppelman here, Rick Russman, Ernie Landry, and we were the lucky folks who were drafted onto the subcommittee to help out with the evaluation and so forth of what the library was looking to do.
Yes, they made the mistake of coming to a meeting in support of the project, in which case we said, great, we're looking for a subcommittee, and we kinda grabbed them.
And the other ironic part, or maybe it wasn't so ironic, is that the 3 of us have had experience putting solar photovoltaic systems onto our own property. So we had some firsthand experience with vendors and with the process and all of that, so.
Do you have any questions
So
for
do you
them?
have questions?
Do you
Well,
wanna know about the process, what they did?
I'm just curious, how much is that gonna generate? Last time, when you had it, there's a breakdown of, X amount of years, this is the cost, and then X amount of years. Do you have anything on that, and what the single pole is gonna generate, and what the cost is gonna be versus the,
I haven't calculated the payback, but the system that the subcommittee chose to recommend to the trustees is a system that generates about 6,000 kilowatt hours per year. And if you were to figure on, if you knew what the cost per kilowatt hour is, you could do the math, and the total system cost is roughly $24,000 and change. So you could do the math and come up with a payback.
is this still revision?
Well, it is going to be. We did go to other vendors. They had other proposals. They looked through several of them, but in the end, it wound up being that Revision had best project, best cost, and also had the best reputation.
If it's 6,000 kilowatt hours, it has a capacity to generate, what is the usage right now?
We think that's about a third of what we're currently using. That was the best estimate, that it would take care of about a third of the.
Yeah, so last year it was about 42,000 kilowatts.
And then we got less.
But what we did last year is, in November, we finished the LED
Yeah.
project, and that saved us about $1,300 this year. So we have a reduction in kilowatt hours, and I don't have what we saved this year, but for the number of the total kilowatt hours, we had 42,000 last year.
So this year will be something less because of the
will
LED
be.
conversion.
Right.
That's right.
I think at the time that's why I didn't want to speak off the top of my head, but I thought that was the number that I had that I am remembering that it was just under a third anticipated to save.
And
And
as
again,
Ellen,
I'm sorry.
as Ellen already said earlier in her comments, the idea of doing this is not only to offset the electricity cost, although that's a key element to it. It's also the educational component. And, the trustees and the director felt that it's an important addition to the community library to do this from an educational point.
So the cost you said was 24,000?
Yeah, 24.
24,460.
And you were looking for 19,000?
No, we're looking for the, we're
Oh,
looking
24.
for the 24,460.
Okay.
We have over 30, 35 or 37, something like that, in there now. We could have gone with a pole that, you know, moved and followed the sun, but that would have eaten up almost all of the money in the impact fund, and we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to put it down to zero, and we also didn't want to get something that could, because it moved,
It's
to become
mechanical
more of a
and.
mechanical issue, might have more cost for maintenance and things, and that's not what we wanted. That wasn't the intent. And we also wanted to make sure that we could not put up something that would somehow eliminate us from being able to tie in if and when the town was able to do it. So that's why we went with sort of a smaller scale, but one in which it made no point to try and enter into a purchase and sales agreement for something this sort of lower.
There's nothing to tie in per se. I think if the town did a solar panel over at, a solar array at the landfill, it would be, we just get X amount of dollars for the generation. It doesn't tie into our system or anything like that.
No, it wasn't that. It's just that our usage, because we already had a solar array, could not be part of the town's overall total amount of usage to.
Yeah, it was like a penny a kilowatt, or a penny and something for all town offices.
Frankly, your cost would have been much less than we would have been paying having our own array. So it would have been not financially beneficial to do it if the town was going to be able to do it within a few years.
Yeah.
So we just thought, that makes no sense. We're going to wind up paying more than we would. We didn't think that was the right thing for the taxpayers. So
No, and it definitely been a lost opportunity cost, you know.
Exactly.
The more buildings we, well, not tie into that, but utilize that credit, the better.
So that's why we went with this, to be able to serve, not only cut down on some costs until we can be a group, but also give us the educational component that we were also looking for.
Questions? Concerns?
Does anyone have any negative comments so that we can know if there's anything before we present this to the selectmen and the budget committee?
Oh, we'll wait till you leave to bring those
Okay,
up.
great, okay, well, that's what I was looking for, so thank you, that's good.
I just want to say that originally, there was a system similar to what Brentwood Fire Department put up, the town put up by their fire station. It wasn't obviously anywhere near as big as that, you know, be a fraction of the size, but a number of people were concerned about the aesthetics of it, the location, and obviously, so I think the trustees wanted to listen to those folks, and obviously the roof's not conducive to us, you can't do a roof type thing, so. And the tracker's got its own set of problems with hydraulics, and just hydraulics, and so it's the maintenance issue. So this presented a real good opportunity as far as bang for the buck in terms of getting the best dollar we could get, most generation we could get. And Revision's put in over 6,000 solar units so far to date, and that's a lot of units, lots of experience. And it's the local people right down the street and so on and so forth. So we feel comfortable that we're getting a good value here for the taxpayers. And even though the taxpayers aren't paying it, still it's money there. We want to make sure we're reducing energy costs and we're getting good value. And I feel really comfortable with it. It's a step in the right direction.
The various components also have some pretty decent warranties on them. The panels are guaranteed for 20 years. The inverter, I think, for 12. And Revision itself provides a 5-year warranty on labor.
So we're buying it straight out for the 24. There's no more of that lease or any of that stuff. Just buying it straight out.
Straight
Yeah.
out buy it.
And because,
State-of-the-art panels, I mean, they're like 300, I think it's 300 watts, if I'm not mistaken. 350, which, and the ones that I have on my office are maybe 250, 240, so I mean, they've obviously gotten better and better, and these are an attractive one, because they're just a pure jet black, they're not, you can't see the frame and all that type of thing, it's more attractive, and aesthetically, it's gonna be set in the corner over by the garage area, so you can see it, but it's not gonna be like in your face type thing, so we think that's important too, as far as how the library looks and appears to people coming in and so on.
Anyone?
Makes sense,
On the
simple.
KW charge for, there's too many varieties of choices.
Well, we can try and have that a little bit more specific information if you're interested in it for when we're at the budget committee. If there's specifics you wanna know, just let us know.
Just
We got a
kinda
couple of
curious
weeks.
of the payback.
Yeah,
You
so
know
we can
what?
try and get that, but.
on a number of these systems, I know that the system that I put on my house, the payback on it is about 8 years, 8 to 9 years. I mean, we could do the calculation and tell you what it is for this, but frankly, we didn't do that yet.
And keep in mind, it's the only thing that we do that has a payback. I mean, with all respect to the chief, the cruisers don't have a payback, the fire trucks don't have a payback, the town trucks don't have a payback. We just spend the money. We use them certainly, but this eventually does have a payback, which is a nice thing to have. So, you know, irrespective, and again, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, whatever it is, but you are getting money back at some point, which is nice, and then it's free after that for a number of years.
Well, yes and no. I mean, if the thing lasts 5 years and the payback's 8, it's not a good investment.
Well, except for the warranties are longer than that.
warranty way past that.
It's like 20-year warranty, so, and I've had mine on my building, I think, almost 9 or 10 years, and it's
If
flawless.
it's 20-year warranty, then any payback under 20 is worth doing it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, for sure.
And the panels do last. I mean, James was, from Revision, was saying, he's seen panels 40 years old and they still produce electricity, so they do last a long time.
Sometimes, though, what happens after 20 years, is that they can be sometimes not as effective, maybe not produce as much, but,
Yeah, there you go. Kinda like this.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they showed us, I believe they had the breakdown at 20 years, we're at 80% efficiency or whatever, but yeah.
It's like your heating and air conditioning equipment that's already outdated.
All right, anything else?
No, I think that was it.
We'll see you for warrant articles then?
Yeah, well, we'll probably see you this Saturday as well, when they do the budget, but.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll have all this, we have our warrant article all done and signed. We're gonna send it to the DRA, Cindy gave me the, person to contact to make sure there's no errors in how it was written. So we'll be all set with that, and then we'll give it to the selectmen.
Thank you for coming in, Les.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for doing that.
Happy New Year.
Oh, yeah. Next up.
Gentlemen,
Good evening.
I am here before you to ask permission and to submit a application license for the use of the plains for our second annual Brewfest to be held hopefully on June 20th, Saturday, 2020.
June 20th.
Yes.
You're here to ask permission after you publicly announce when the Brewfest is?
Well, that's not the first time that something like that has ever happened. I will delete that post if I do not, and that's the wrong date anyway, but,
That's the wrong day. So what you
it was posted for the 27th, but there's a conflict, so we're backing it up a week. So this is only for the Brewfest itself, a few bands and food, no bonfire, no carnival rides. No fireworks, what?
No cow patty?
No, I mean, we can talk.
Not anymore, we can't.
So what's the new date?
I know what I'm
So on the Facebook post said the 27th, but the date is the 20th.
Any concerns, questions?
So there were some issues that were raised from last year's event. Obviously, anything having to do with the bonfire, closing roads, any of that stuff is not gonna happen this year. But things like pets, children, that type of stuff, which we will address and take care of this year.
I had two residents who had lived on the plains for a while. They were completely happy with how the last one turned out, but one of the points both of them brought up to me independently was they thought the reason that it was not a problem is because people couldn't park right there and have booze in their car or something like that and get overserved by themselves.
So one thing that we're hoping to do is, and last year we gave water out for free in to hope to curb that, which we will do again this year. One other thing that was brought up is maybe we shut so we're planning on 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. So it's kind of in the middle of the day, whatever, and then staying open, not serving beer, but staying open for another hour with the band playing and serving food to allow people to stay and sober up if they need to. So last year, we ended up parking people on the planes because of the fireworks and the traffic that we experienced. So,
I think to answer that question, though, it was fenced in, and it will be fenced in again. You can't come and go as you please.
Right.
Once you're in, because we don't want people to go and, seek anything out in their car, per se. So I think that would remain in effect, as, there's...
And we would look to Chief Briggs to see, I'm assuming at least one person at each gate, maybe 1 or 2 inside, and then maybe 1, roaming parking lot police officers.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I think there was 2 people last time that required, there was nothing major, but I just want to make sure we're cognizant of that and we keep that
Absolutely.
going on.
Yeah, we're not very well. Are you gonna have the road race the same day?
No. So the only reason we moved the road race to that day was because of the 325th anniversary. We couldn't have it, there was too much stuff going on, but that'll be moved back to with the lobster feed and Kingston days. I think the beer fest, it's self-contained more or less, and I think that's enough to have on that one day. But I heard many positive things from residents. We spent 2 hours walking the plains the next day, picking up the trash, and making sure that like the craft fair that was out here a few weeks ago or a few months ago now. We obviously want to make sure that we're allowed back, so we're going to do what we can.
Are you looking to do it 3 to 7, or I thought you mentioned you might be considering 4 to 8?
I think earlier in the day would probably be better.
Okay.
And then that would allow us, 7 to 8 of the, for lack of a better term, sober up time, and then we wouldn't be out too late on the plains causing a ruckus with the townspeople.
I would call it something else.
Yeah, a wind down time.
Yeah.
The only other thing, though, I think this time the difference would be, back to the point you brought up, I think based on what happened for the craft fair, that there was no incident with it, I think they were looking to do the parking around the plains, not offset locations.
Yeah, so as of right now, the plan would be to hold the main event across from the fire station where like the bonfire was, that area. And then you can do parking, like handicap parking by the bandstand, which is usually what they do for Kingston Days, seems to work out well, and then use, every other section west for parking.
What's the date you just said?
The 20th of June?
Of June?
Yeah.
Oh, and you had it July 27th before, right?
We had it June 27th before.
Turns out that's the New Hampshire Beer Fest at New Mountain is the 27th.
Get the drunks that don't want to drive too far.
But I think we would have Rich Sainoli sign off as normal, the police chief, and, well, the fire chief.
You'll do a, pre-plan.
Yep.
Like we did last time.
I did ask Mark, because I knew this was gonna be on the agenda, and he said as long as, basically the permit goes through with everyone approval, he
Yeah,
wouldn't have an issue with it.
same as last year, we had to get the one-day liquor permit, we had to, you know, chief had to sign off on it, figure out what we needed for details, and, probably staff a few more, staff an extra ambulance just in case.
So, the craft fair, she came back after that. When is she planning on doing that again, or would like to do that again? I thought it was in
He
June and
suggested
October.
2 weekends, and I can't remember what they are off the top of my
Yeah, the one is in
Oh,
October, and I
you're
thought it
right,
was in
yeah,
June
you're
and
right, it was
July.
June's, what was the June one?
June 27th? That would probably help her out.
We gotta figure that out.
I just don't think we want to have two major
No,
events
you
on the
don't want
plains,
none
and
on
it's
the
gonna
same
kill
day.
all the grass. and-
Forgot all about that, good point. I forget what you said, Julie.
Oh, yeah, she discussed with us, she hasn't submitted anything, but June 20th and 21st is one, October 4th and 5th.
Was it first come, first serve? No, and
We can work with her to see.
And if that's like her normal day that she does her craft fairs, I mean, we can
How
we
about
can
it,
we can be flexible.
I guess this is more informational so that everyone's on board with the same thing. If we gotta adjust the date, is everyone okay?
I mean, she did come to us with a tentative date, I
She
thought,
was-
so.
Yeah, she did.
She did.
And you got a phone number, right? You could call her tomorrow?
Yeah, I've got her email, I think I have a phone number somewhere, so
And
I'll talk to her and
Yeah, just, I'll stop by tomorrow after.
And if not, just the week before?
are you guys flexible for the weekends?
Yeah, I won't put anything else on Facebook.
Always a sound policy.
I just want to get people excited, yourselves included.
Well, my cow's not even invited, so what do I care?
There's no contest, doesn't mean Cupcake's not invited.
Buttercup, thank you very much.
In my, agenda here, probably people are gonna think there's a bonfire, like it's clear.
So I'll touch base with Susan tomorrow if there's no major issues, and obviously any small issues we can work out. I'll be in again, but if,
Okay. Well, you just fill out the application, submit it, but I think we're
well,
all.
I'll wait till tomorrow, because if the Vintage Bazaar is the 20th, then we'll do
Yeah,
the week before.
Okay. While you're here, I'll consider as old business, but we have an appointment for public office here for Graham Pellerin. I believe last week's meeting, we came to a memorandum of understanding, and that is signed. So if everyone's okay with signing that,
You gonna say what it's for?
this is for, well, it's getting to that. We now have a full-time fire chief, no longer interim. The fire chief is Graham Pellerin. The town did do a national search, and surprisingly enough, Graham rose to the challenge compared to all the other applicants that was there. I'd like to, again, thank the committee for the oral board that was headed by Chief Briggs as a member of the Selectmen and as public safety officer for the town. Ellie Alicio was on there, Chief Brian Como,
Chief from Lee,
Jeff Laporto, Deputy Chief from Lee,
the
Chief,
gentleman.
Chief Reinhardt from
Farmington,
Farmington.
okay? And out of that, Graham's name was one of the top selections, and it took a while to negotiate things. But with that being said, I'm happy to make the announcement that Graham is no longer interim chief, so the asterisk will be removed from his name, and he's now the full-time chief of the town of Kingston. So with that, a round of applause.
Chief from East Kingston.
Ed Warren.
Oh, Ed Warren from East Kingston, that's right, okay. So,
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I look forward to serving underneath you and doing the best for the town of Kingston.
very good.
I can tell you, they've come a long way with the per diem, just to follow up on that. Number of calls over the last couple of months, they're there in a timely fashion. There's not much wait time now. Done a good job.
I think his next challenge will be filling his shoes for a full-timer. That'll be his next challenge he'll have to take over. The other thing is, it was a quick comment, I don't know how people feel, but my experience for a promotion like this, usually it's a ceremony, the selectmen are obviously invited, but usually it's at the fire department, or, you know, and it's, you know, set up by them. So unless anyone has any idea, that's what I would tell Graham, is figure out when you want to do it.
Talk to my association tonight.
And I look forward to the invitation.
I'll put it on Facebook.
Get a haircut before the ceremony.
Tammy's probably still down there if he wants to get
Yeah,
started.
if you want to get this down to Tammy, you can do that. We'll do a formal ceremony after, but
All right, are you good with me?
So,
I think that's it, right?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
You.
Congratulations. Public comment. Does anyone want to make a... Old business, logging in area 10th Street.
I was able to speak to the gentleman's employee last week. Told him that there was a hold on doing any further cutting. And I believe they are complying with that.
Okay. Evie Nathan did grab me today. Another person on 4th Street was gonna contract with that person. She instructed them to, you gotta get a clearing permit or something.
Intent to cut.
And I said, intent to cut, and I said,
taking that much wood?
I don't think he's gonna be taking that much wood.
No, I mean, there's a certain board foot requirement or an acreage size, and this is all the ones that he has cut is under that area.
And that's what I told her, but I did say he might wanna find someone else, because right now, we asked him to stop all activity down there.
Cease and desist.
We
Yeah.
gave him the form, but we told him we didn't think it was probably necessary, but it's got all the instructions and the numbers for.
How bad of a mess is it down there?
It was kind of messy, but the worst part, on the side of the hill, the town owns the property. They left some pines, one large one here, one over here on a hill. It's gonna be very windy. They're not protecting each other. We're gonna have the same issues as we did up at 125.
So is that something we're gonna have to get Rich or another tree company in,
I
or?
don't think Rich is equipped to deal with that size
They're
tree.
pretty big pines.
No, he's not gonna take it down, but he'll have to contract someone before it becomes a hazard.
We should go out and take a look at it, because it could be a hazard.
You wanna,
Do you want to run over there on Thursday after the inspectors meeting?
Sure, just give me a call, yeah.
Rich will be there.
and then just figure out, because, yeah, we don't want it to come down to something,
Right.
then it'll really be a problem. Right, okay, next on the agenda is a shed setback violation.
The owners.
Yep, I don't know if you wanna talk about it, or?
Maybe, there may be some things they want to discuss that may be a non-public issue.
I guess my question would be, it was on the agenda, they just happened to be here. Do you want to at least take a look at that, or
Well, I'd ask them to come up and,
you want to come up?
you know, before there's a discussion between them and the neighbor, I would think that you probably, you know, this is being televised.
Yes.
So anything that you may say that, about the neighbor or whatever,
Did
that's
you
what I'm
want to look at that?
trying to not have read.
Understood, thank you.
Before we do anything, anyone have any issue if I share that with them?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
There's some legal issues involved here too, that's another issue why
Yeah.
it may want to be a non-public issue.
Just say the history of it.
Sure.
Okay. We acquired that shed from old neighbors, the Whites, which is what, number 9?
Yes.
Okay. The Contis, which live across just the street from them at the time, the Whites were looking to put in a garage, and the Contis had concern that it was gonna block their view to the lake. It was decided by the Selectmen that the shed would be removed from the property, and they would put the garage on the other side, which is actually closest to our property line on 11. We got the shed, great, we have a shed. We put the shed, you know, down by the water. 2005 or 4.
And it's been fine ever since.
Yeah.
Been no issues with it. Their tenants utilize the shed. Our neighbors' families have utilized our land in the
Who
shed.
had placed the complaint about the shed.
It seems to have, this issue seems to have developed, last year?
Correct.
All over an issue, well, it came down to an issue of the border, where it is. He thought it was 20 feet, our neighbor thought it was 20 feet onto our property, which put the shed on his property, and then realized that it wasn't there. It was actually basically where the line was.
There was a granite marker down by the lake, which
It'd been there.
for all indications on our deed, it looked as though our property line is this granite marker and then a metal pole up by the road. And
It's basically, it's a straight line, and when he realized that it went across his driveway, he didn't like that. He really didn't like that. And the fact that we had an issue with, he's got an Airbnb in the one room, or the one building that he has now down by the water, the house. And we had an issue with people coming in, walking. Trespassing. They had the transient occupation of people coming in, going on our dock. I was watching a kid do backflips off our dock.
for over 2 to 3 years, we've had concerns with people trespassing, so.
I'll just share this with you and you
Sure.
can take a look at it. It's just, it's an unfortunate situation, I
Yep.
get it. Take a look at this, because this was on the agenda, that obviously you knew that.
Received a complaint from your neighbors via their maintenance person and power of attorney.
Oh, that's Darryl, okay.
Oh, that's right, the sister owns it. The complaint is-
Okay, does it matter that when we put it in, the shed, there was no variance, there was no,
There was, we did the research,
it was in 2008 that it went in.
For a show.
and that was before that. There was no date on it.
Changed.
I was told there wasn't even a setback policy back then.
No, it went in before that.
And again, anyway,
There's options there, though.
Yeah.
There is options, and we're just notifying you the options. Sometimes fences make good neighbors. Things happen, but it was brought to our attention.
yep, you guys have to deal with it
And
how we do.
if you just read it, it gives you three distinct options.
Okay, I've got a question for you. He had a survey done. He never had it brought to the Registry of Deeds. Does that mean the survey, does that mean it's a legitimate survey? Yeah, land survey. He had the stakes put in, but he never turned it into the Registry of Deeds.
I don't think that matters if they do or don't.
Well, it does, the reason I'm asking is because that makes a big difference as to where the line is. That'd move the line over a good 3 or 4 feet. And that means I only have to move
The
the shed.
surveyor took what's on the deeds.
No, he didn't. I can show
It's
you,
different,
it's
yeah.
different than my deed, our deed, I should say, is compass headings. It's 4 distinct compass headings. It doesn't vary at all. It's basically, it's a pie shape, but it's 4 distinct compass headings. His survey bends, and we went to the registry. He did not report that new survey.
This new survey.
And he tore out the old granite stake, or the old granite block that was in the ground for, 30, 40 years. Tore that out So now we can't even, I still know where it is, but we're not even sure where the original line was.
And he further has picked up some of those stakes that he didn't like.
The stakes that he doesn't like, he runs over with his truck because they go across his driveway. The only
Versus,
stakes he leaves are the ones that work for him.
so we really need to know, and I've gone to the county courthouse to look for the new survey. So we don't have
And we never got a copy of it. All we go by is what he said. And initially, as I said,
the
he had
stakes,
he
the
had
new
the stake
stakes that
20
were
feet
put in.
onto our property.
So,
Well, he's not required to register a survey.
but it's not valid if you didn't register it at the registry. You
Right.
can get a
Not valid
survey
if you
done all
didn't.
day long, but it doesn't matter, but you cannot remove
You don't have to
boundary
register it, but that
markers.
means it reverts back to the original survey lines, correct?
He since has moved
Our
property.
issue.
Yeah,
So the first thing I would tell you, it's a misdemeanor to remove any survey markers.
Actually, it's felony, isn't it?
If it's temporary survey markers, if it's granite bound that delineate between two properties, that is a felony, isn't it, Don?
We put him up and he runs him over with his plow.
Well, so a wooden stake in the ground is not what they're talking about. If he's pulling granite bounds out, that
Yeah, he
is
did.
a felony. But if it's not registered, you have the option, and I'm not a surveyor, but it may be in your best interest to have a surveyor come out and remark that line,
And register it.
and you register it.
So
If you
going
feel
with,
that, if you feel that his survey was done in error,
but I guess what I'm looking at is he had a survey done that worked for him, but he never turned it into the registry. We have a deed that specifically states what the original markings were. So why do we have to go get another survey to show what we already have at the registered?
Didn't you look into it? Was it legitimate survey or?
I'm trying to think, I think the surveyor called us, if I remember right. It was in the
He
summer.
did, he notified the neighbors, he went around, he did the right thing,
Yep.
and he had the survey done.
but if he's, yeah, again, if we're talking about borders, property lines, and having to move it, then shouldn't we be privy to what it is that he's?
Let me ask you the,
And I guess my other question is, if it is, we've gotta move it 20 feet, don't we have to know where that line is to go 20 feet over?
yes, that's a fact, but
So, and the original line, I don't mean to interrupt, but the original boundary line is probably a good 15 to 18 feet, which means I only have to shift it over 3 or 4 feet.
I would say, I went out and looked at it, just looked at it based on where it is. It's definitely, there's no way that's within 20 feet of a boundary. Where exactly the boundary is, I don't know. I won't even pretend to know. But it's quite obvious that was put on the line, or very close to the line.
The property line?
Yeah,
No, not at all. I could drive a truck on the backside of it.
what I saw, with the road that was down there, the driveway.
That's, the road's half of our property. Sorry.
I guess I missed that for you then.
Yeah, because the stakes kept getting run over.
Is that the case? I was going off of, I thought the property line was, when I went, the markers that were up was pretty much the grass line,
I think we originally measured 9 feet
off the grass line.
off the temporary stakes that were there.
The temporary stakes are a good 5 or 6 feet. I'm not saying that was 20
No,
feet at the time.
I'm
We
okay,
didn't realize
I
that.
went and looked and I didn't realize that it was on the driveway. I was looking at the edge of the driveway going.
So if there's a conflict on the survey, I mean, it's really a civil issue,
It is a civil issue.
and,
Then what I would, why don't we go back and have the other one, if he has a survey, let the surveyor put that on, if, you know, I don't think we can,
I don't know if we should be doing anything. Because if it's a civil issue, our job is to just say the rule is 20 feet.
yeah.
That's our job. If they wanna argue about where their line is, they need to have a survey. His survey has nothing to do with it, because he could have, I mean, you never know, I don't think a surveyor would risk their license.
I agree with that, but if he doesn't like the outcome of it, I don't think he's gonna go register it.
That's right, that's what he's probably didn't like the outcome.
And my point
So
is-
then your job would be to have your own done, prove the outlet.
So we
Or
can't
the
go with the
outcome.
deed that we have? That's
They
got
should-
compass headings on it? I
But
mean,
they
it's,
should be able to do a survey easy from your deed.
From your deed.
Should be a very cheap, I mean,
Well,
nothing's
not
cheap
cheap.
anymore, but I just helped a neighbor get one in my neighborhood, and it was like $800 based on her deed.
Okay.
You know, but I'm not saying that's what it'll be, but it's not 4 or 5,000 like sometimes surveys are.
I have a question. When this issue, or complaint first arose, I had gone and talked to the building inspector, and forgive me, Robert Stewart. Okay. And he had said that over 50% of the buildings, in Kingston are not,
Compliant.
thank you, non-compliant. So he didn't think this would be an issue.
Well,
So
like I
that
said,
I'm confused.
first of all, that may be true, may not be true, but it's kind of like fishing. When you go fishing, do you catch every fish?
I guess my
Does
question.
the cops catch everyone speeding? So, you know, it's just, when it does come to us, we have to do something. And the ordinance was written pre-2008, because we did look at that. It was the first thing we looked at.
When was it written?
Well, the first amendment was 96. I'm not sure when it first came out, but the amendments were 96, 2008, 2016.
So they were in effect. So it came across to us. And once we know of something, we have to act. So, you know, that spells that out. The other thing you could do is, if you want to refute that, a fourth option is exactly what he said. If you feel comfortable with, then you stake out your boundaries. Okay, and then you can come back and say, no, it's not. Here's the proof that it is within, because what we had was a 9 feet of.
But where's the proof of that? Because, can I throw a couple stakes in my yard and say those are the boundary lines? Because what he had done was
It's
never.
supposed to be a certified boundary.
Fine, show me that. All I see is stakes in the line. He has yet to show me anything other than stakes put in his yard. We never got a copy of it. It's not
That's our
registered.
responsibility, is what they're saying. Okay.
But we can't get a copy of it if you never registered.
Is that we get along. So, thank you. Is there any?
I get it. I understand your frustration. And this is stuff that you don't like to get meddling in, but once it comes across, it has to be resolved. There's a complaint made, a formal complaint. And to the best of our knowledge, you know, Briggs went down there. I looked at it real quick. I know Chief Briggs did some investigating. That's where we came. It was within, it wasn't.
Former building inspector, when it was left. If this was like him taking out a. I think where that line is, if they prove where the line is, they prove. But where it's history, it's kind of hard to do that.
Especially where he tore out the granite marker that was there. But that's not gonna do any good.
Well, if he removed a granite marker, that's something different.
It's part of the civil. We want to go that way.
What were the options? I didn't see the letter.
I thought you crafted it. I'm sorry. No. The options were get rid of it, move it, apply for a variance.
What's involved with applying for a variance? Just.
All you gotta do is
Don't you have to have your neighbors sign?
No, they can come, it's a public hearing with the ZBA, and they can come and speak against it, but, you know.
they'll get notified. Yeah.
Sign, right? Okay.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you for listening. Take care.
Thank you. Town report. Input.
And I gave you the Selectmen's page, usually
I'd recommend you put a picture, something to do with the 325th on the front page, on the front cover.
I think that would be
We had the
Yeah.
LED projector, Susan could beam up the great pictures we've got.
I do have a picture, and I thought I sent it in an email, but I didn't.
I didn't know it wasn't in there, what was the picture of? Oh, okay.
Something like that, anyway. I got a lot of pictures from the 325th. That one just kind of stood out. We can do color on,
Where'd the picture come from?
well, someone took pictures, so I'd have to get his permission.
Yeah.
But I have other pictures.
Stefano Vio.
Yeah, he was one of the people that,
I believe they were hired by the 325th,
Yeah.
so I don't think we need their permission for the pictures we paid them.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We shouldn't
I
have
was
to.
gonna look
I
into
don't know
it
who
and
signed
find
that
out if I
contract, but
needed
we did.
to.
Great.
You have to get his, maybe
Yeah.
his name off the corner, but maybe we don't.
Oh, and it might be a little better, is the one that shows the bonfire with the
Yeah.
firework.
Actually, to be honest, I almost wonder if that's a better picture. Hold on,
The one you post.
yeah,
Which one, the bonfire and the what?
Bonfire with firework going off behind it.
yeah, let me see.
No,
Take
not
that
the one- not with-
No, but I know
with
we
the
can find out who
The
did.
one that ended up on Facebook.
Yeah. Let me see.
Yeah, and any that's just something that I thought for sake of discussion.
This one right here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I found out.
Yeah,
Who
that's
took
nice.
that? Do you know?
I could find out. That one.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
I think we'll find out and, maybe that use.
I'm fine with either one of them, so. We'll have to have another meeting to make a decision
What do you,
I'm on that one.
based.
The other name was Arlene Sargent, she was with the fire department.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of things.
And
I think I should change it to the third paragraph.
That's what I was just reading, it shouldn't be enough.
A little more brevity. Well, can I say this? I hate to contact them.
Yeah, no, you should, I don't really wanna just.
Reconfiguration option for building.
area for, and, you know,
I think this order, that one will, you think it's beyond wrong. The next question is, I mean, I think things could be reconsidered. I think you gotta look at it, the city's office need to be that big, or can you buy something else?
if you,
You know, but so that, make it a desk, maybe a chair.
well, that,
Get out our tin cans, if it's rattled around.
if you look at that, big event, if you know, about a third of it really gets used, the rest is stored.
Yeah.
So if we took that, put that in the other room, and utilize that, you could make more room in the garage.
Well, I don't think, yeah, we could look at all that stuff after, but I think the question was ordering, just order one room, right? Oh, Silver Oak. I like the blue. That's the Silver Oak. Is it okay? How about if we let Cindy decide, is her office at this point? The only other thing to talk about was the option came up for Martin Luther King Day. Obviously we heard Rich, but I think that's right. Get it done. It's already been long enough. We've been talking about it for a little bit.
Yeah, I think, does it have to be moved out on Friday? Can we just plan from Wednesday to Friday? Can his guys move the filing cabinets out of there? So if it snows one of those days,
Yeah.
it's still a fallback day, and they can be out in the hall for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, get it done though. That's my point though. Do it on Martin Luther King weekend.
It makes sense for the.
As far as the automation question, I think that's something we need to look at, but I don't think we would have. What was his proposal for that, like $135,000?
well, I guess my point with that is that I want to be able to check how they're happening. While we're still on the subject of reconfiguring that bill, at what point, like, the idea is that's your idea? I'm just wondering, at what point do you consider having something that looks at space? I can't think anything if I come in here on a Sunday. We talked about this, I know that irritated a lot of people, but at what point do you want to consider whether we're gonna use a stage, not use a stage? Do we need the kitchen that big? Can the town hall, town clerk's office, the wall be moved a little bit and maybe make a smaller application that big? The light fence in the hallway. Oh, yeah, that barrier. Yeah.
But you could actually, you could cut that down and put it in the other way, come through that door, they walk up to it, they can't get around there. In other words, anybody that comes in for safety, comes in to see, and either one of the options.
Why don't you and I sit down and do a little sketch of that, what we need to lay it out? So, I don't think we have a house. Yeah, I just want to know, if it's like city people about what they do. So what we do. I know the person is that the record.
Yeah, you can't do more than that. So the only way you're gonna get one there is to look at that. Another one. The counter.
Well, I'm thinking of that. And I'm just gonna speak for you. I think it is super counterproductive to do the next year. I mean, what percentage of people coming in and coming to talk to you versus permitting and assessment things? Because, yeah, it's every time someone walks through the door, you know, they've got to, both of them have to shift and go over there. And I just think it could be configured a lot better than, yeah. And I think there should be a space. If it's just a filing cabinet, I've got a stack like this tall of all the crap I bring to these meetings home, and it would be a lot more convenient for me to not have it in my house and just have it here where that's where I need it. That's when I have to access it. So we'll take some measurements and do a couple of sketches. But I think between the counter and the amount of file cabinets, we were moving around trying to do something different with them, and just to make more room.
How much of that needs to be there versus an off-site storage too?
All of them? To put their property files, particularly inside, if they were digital and we had this computer monitor. Then.
Well, I just looked at the old days of Selectmen, when there was 3, at least they had to draw this big. We got nothing.
Even without taking the cabinets out yet, if you did that change, there might be room in the front office for 2 inspectors' desks and a clerk.
Yeah, you could do it. If that counter is gone from there, we could reconfigure that to put 2 inspectors and
Okay, liaison reports.
The inspectors meeting, we had one on Thursday, that was just following up on some, it was more the violations meeting. We have the reconfiguring permitting and fees this week, if anyone wants to come. Planning board did a site visit on Bresnahan yesterday. They had a wetland scientist and a county forester present to give their recommendations on how that could properly be reestablished, which I think is the right call. People can theorize all they want, but we might well, and I mean, the county forest is free. Yeah. And the Rockingham County, they sent over the wetland scientist, which wasn't free, but it was, the applicant paying for it, but, so that'll be discussed at the next meeting, and, that's it.
Mike is met as the holiday.
Budget committee, Saturday, 9 a.m. I will, pick up some coffee, donuts, muffins, this thing. And then plan on Sunday afternoon as well. 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoon.
1:30.
Okay. 9:30, 9 Saturday. Yeah, I think our budget is, yes, so the thing, the only, actually, we gotta talk about, see, there were a couple things, what we wanna do for pay for performance. Okay, and then, what was the other? I have a couple comments too. Correspondence, let's go back to that, I thought you drafted that letter, that's in front of me. Okay, I apologize, I thought you, if you were, took a lead on it. Are we okay signing that letter? Do we wanna wait for further after tonight's thing? Is it non-public for that? Okay. Okay. Here's some proclamation to it that they signed. I'm going to, we have something that day, it's a public hearing, but I think it should be done by 3 o'clock. I have it in attention. But we have something that morning, 9 o'clock, to deliberate that. This is deliberate. So I'm hoping that. And then there's an application here for automotive recycling. The application just says signature of city, town official, position and date. You want me to sign this here, a little bit that? Done. Okay, if I sign it on here, I believe. So you all know about that on the delivery period? Gotta hold off on that for hearing. Probably for a bit. So maybe you could call them and see if you can get that.
get that. Yeah. Are you with that or no? You don't have to. Any motion for the minutes? Discussion, all in favor? Motion to, well, no, we're gonna go in non-public. A legal matter and a personnel matter. So with that, we'll conclude tonight's